Hey Nico, I just wanted to go over a tool that you could use instead of SEMrush. I know that you've been using SEMrush a lot to problem solve. I think you're using the main screen. I think you're probably using this tool to look for errors, and you're probably going through these to resolve things. Um, this is nice because you can rerun the campaign often, but I a lot of times need to use SEMrush because I need it for these data sets that I use to determine what competitors' websites have for words. I can only get this from this platform. I can only purchase this. This was the most recent page you did, and this shows me the difference between using this or this on a page. And these are the types of things that make it possible to create those pages where they rank. Um, these are, the competitors that we are looking to beat. So something that I wanted to show you was this tool here. Um, when you come to this website, I will send you an invite for it. I believe you might have it. You do not want to reanalyze because there is a very limited number of credits. So you just want to deal with what's on the screen. Some of these are very easy. I'm going to work on some of these issues. We're going to begin restructuring some pages. I will create tasks in Todoist unless you prefer to do it with Google Docs. Please let me know. One issue that I believe was a problem is the section that we had talked about, this section here. I noticed that it loads very slow and I was unable to tell why. I was checking on some of these images and I use this tool to look at all of Express Med Spa. One of the issues that I look for is image issues, and there are no broken links, but there are 4 big images. So you can click here, or you can click here, and this will just show us. You could export this and then do it from your computer. So we see that this image is way too big. I will probably remake this picture because I'll show you the process, but I will remove all of this and I will make the image a little more aesthetically pleasing. But for now, we can just find this by searching for it, copy the file name, and you can go to our media library. In fact, this is going to be the other picture that they have listed, and I already found it in the media library. I did it by searching for the file name. And as you can see, these pictures are very, very large. No picture should be larger than, I made you this document here. This should help a little. If this is complicated, I understand. Also, if you let me know what software you use, I know you've told me before. There may be a way for me to let you use my Adobe Photoshop. I just know that I even have problems in my own home. They keep making me reset my password every time I log in on my MacBook if I don't use my desktop. But the rule would be the largest images never need to be more than 1,000. A lot of web developers will tell you that this right here is as big as a website needs to be, as big as any image needs to be. Something to consider on the website is that we have set, this is the page where this image is. This image is the header. And one issue is that this woman does not work here anymore. Another issue is the size of the image. As we looked here, this image is 6,000 by 4,000. I want to preserve all this information. I don't want to lose all of this, so I just want to change the picture. This plugin allows us to do this without changing the document. However, you have to upload a WebP. I don't know if you have that ability. I'm assuming you use Google Drive online, so you're looking at it like this, and I imagine you don't see all of these folders. Um, I was trying to clear this up and get my ownership all into one. I will share all of this with you. My only fear is to confuse you. Please let me know if you prefer me only to share you folders that are stuff we can use. I've been working on creating images. I named this folder here. I've been trying to put exactly only the pictures. This would be the slug or the type of service. Maria also uses this for the blogs, so that is why some of them have kind of just a name and not the exact web page. Let me know if you think of a better method. This I thought would help if you were doing a page about laser tattoo. You could just search in Drive and you would get this folder. For me, I actually have all of these images and I've been working on, I want to give you these images so that you can put them on the page. I've been trying to sort through the good ones and the bad ones. I don't know if this is something you would enjoy doing or would be happy to be doing it for work. This would take a lot of time off of what I do. I just want to make sure that we have only good pictures. I will show you something in a moment here that I will do with the one image that you had uploaded. This all may be easier for me just because I use inside my windows, so it's a lot easier for me to just find images. I believe you probably got that image from here. I noticed that you're the one that uploaded it. When I look in these big images, again in the Screpy report, and I came to the website, it says uploaded by Monaco, so that would be you. One thing we can do is just convert them, and that would help a little, but I still would prefer to never upload a file this size because I have limited server space on my hosting. So we're going to want to replace this. There's lots of ways to resize it. One very simple method would be to just do this inside of here. You could literally bring this down to near 1000, but since it is a hero banner, if you just wanted to follow this rule here, and this is kind of what helps, this is why we might need to take it back off of line. But for now, one of the very simplest methods would be to just follow this. This is the size of the screen that you're editing on, by the way. That's why it's like that, because if it were to be full screen on most people's HD monitors, that would be big enough. That will replace the original, and it should now in the media library, as you'll see, that's a much, much smaller instead of 6 megabytes. So there's the simplest method you could use. I have a second problem. This is 2 employees that don't work here anymore. So I wanted to show you a couple other methods that I use when I have a large image. One easy thing to do is to simply open this with the Photos app on your computer, or I'm not sure if you use any of these other programs, but every one of them will allow you to resize. Photoshop allows you to save as a WebP. It's somewhat of a strange method. They only show the WebP ability in when you're in an image like this. You can crop if you want to change some things, and that will just change the overall size of the image to create a better image composition. When you want to save it or export it, something I do with all of my images is I have these all saved, and this will put all of this information into the file, and all of this information helps when we use these online, as long as your settings are set properly where all of this information is attached on the export, because when you use WebP, nothing gets exported generally. The only way to create a WebP in Photoshop without a plugin is to save as copy, and right here is the option. And you can choose here to keep all of that data that I just put in there. Lossless would mean that the file will be larger. You can, if it were something not that important, you can always lower this and it will become a smaller file. However, we're already making these fairly small, but if you are doing web design and being extreme about trying to have the fastest loading pages, you would want to use something like this. This is a medical spa. Everybody cares about how it looks, so we're going to keep it quality. That is just one method, just to show you. We can look and see what the size of the file is now. And you'll see the new one that we've saved is 20 megabytes versus 13 megabytes. I noticed I forgot to resize it. This is something else that's pretty easy to do. If you use Photoshop, you can export, and you'll again want to include the copyright because if we put this data in there, it does seem to have a pretty severe impact on Google stored images. Now that AI is reading, I have been stuffing those files with all the latent semantic indexing words, all the related search terms, and this is helping rank for AI overviews and images. So if you are in Photoshop and you happen to be using one of these giant images, which I will look to avoid in the future, but my camera takes large pictures, so you can come to the Properties tab when you have selected an image, and you can just lower this to an acceptable number. That will shrink the file. Forgot to link the two. If they're not locked, it won't. Okay, I wanted to also just address this. I think I had shared a folder with you, and I will try to get better at putting things in a folder that you can use when we create service pages. I will include all the information for the metadata at the bottom of each file. But for an image like this, in here, again, this one is very large, and the simplest way to do this would be to edit this picture right here inside of WordPress. And again, you can just simply take it down to, this would be the largest size. My only fear with making images too small is I had noticed some of these others that you uploaded for Neck, they meet the requirement and they're very small, which is great. But on some of the pages on the website, on some of the pages, you'll see this image is very blurry. And I was trying to figure out why this image was blurry. I had gone into the page itself to figure out which image was used. And I noticed when I was in this page a couple of things. One, I wanted to explain to you that up here is the settings for the whole website. This says globals. So in here, we can see the settings for the entire website. So the website is limited at 1920, which is your screen. This allows it to take up, this is something I can change whenever. Also, this was something, all the headings can all be, this is the standard. These are the fonts. And when you were using things in the original group, or when you create your own individual fonts on a page, if you use things in this or in this, I'll be able to, anytime we want, come in here and I can change this, and throughout the entire website, that would change. So if the owner decided that they wanted to see a different style, I could come in here and change one thing, and as long as you had used something from this and you chose base or heading or display call to action, it would always allow me to control the whole website, which is going to be a very powerful thing. So going forward, when you do create these pages, you'll want to not be using, you can see these, each one of these is inherent, which means it comes from the settings of the whole page. So going forward, we will probably switch over every page to the new style. I like the new style a lot better. It looks great, the pages you've worked on. These are all excellent. And then I just wanted to make sure you understood with the text settings why you would always want to make sure this is chosen. You can see here is palette, and here's the magnate, and this is chosen as heading, and that again for the entire site is here. So you've chosen for the magnate and heading, and if I changed it, it would change on the whole site. So that's something you'll want to make sure we only use these styles from these pages going forward. So just to finish up the images issue, going all the way back to the beginning, we're worried about big images. This Kybella image was a big image. The simplest method for fixing a giant image like this is just to go into the media library and edit the image. This was the giant image. You can edit the image. And then one last thing is, I don't know if you have any tools that can do this, but I wanted to show you a trick. This here, this looks poor. So either the image could be cropped, which, just so you know, because 98% of all the users are using this website on mobile, you can see this is the issue we're looking into yesterday. I believe, again, that was all because of too much schema code. But since everybody is visiting this website on a mobile device, it is good to consider your designs as you're creating the pages. And you always want to switch to this down here and see how it looks. And you'll notice square images almost always make the most sense. And that's perhaps why you didn't notice, because maybe you were looking at square images. Because once I saw this on a normal size screen, all of a sudden these images all looked really blurry, as you can see there. So this is something we can figure out going forward. This has to do with some other issues. This has margin or padding that's keeping it from because that image isn't a tall image. So there's obviously something, and that's the setting right there. So this is what's causing that look. When you choose contain, it will, or when you choose fill, it warps the image, unless it just so happens that this were the right size. But since it's not, you'd want to click the image and either choose to fit it into the box the size that it is, or make sure that it's just kept inside the box. And we'll go through, I'll discuss some of the other issues at another time, but just so you know what happens. See, if I contain, it doesn't get blurry then. However, when you choose cover, it allows to stylize like these edges with the radiuses, which you won't see that if the image is contained. So these are some things we can work out going forward. It's exciting to learn. I think a lot of this is going to be solved just by using these new styles, because all of this is pre-designed and everything works out a lot better. These are all great pages. So we'll just focus on switching everything over to this style. And I'm really excited going forward, how this is all going to look. Sorry, one last thing was all these images I know that you had used. Something I want to get better at is any image that you use, I would like to make sure that we move them into the correct folder. So in this website images folder, which is inside the website content for Express Med Spa, if this should be a better name for you, please tell me. I'll make sure that it's shared with you, but I want to make sure that we either named it for the page, like there is no Kybella page in here, and there's no neck. So I would create a new one, and based on this page and based on what page it is listed on, so because this is the page, I'm going to go ahead and name the folder that, so that we can have folder for each service. This should help with organizing and searching in Google Drive. And so when you create an image, it would be good to make a copy and save it here. So when you're in Google Drive, if you're going to use a picture, if you could make a copy and then move that copy to the folder where you can then just move it, and you could go to the website images folder and find that Kybella folder, the neck folder, and you could move it in there. But you would want to move the copy. And then one last thing is the size of all of these. As you'll see, the dimensions are huge. So this would be a good thing. We don't really need images this big. There's no reason to have images this big. So when you make your copy and put it in that web folder, you can either use Microsoft Photos to simply reduce the size. You could, again, come in here and change the composition depending on what you're using it for. One thing would be to simply make this a square, because as we said, if people are looking on mobile, this would just be a better image. The other option, if you want to repair pictures, you can choose this tool here, the selection brush, or you can choose plenty others. But nowadays you can just simply choose that hit generative fill. If you don't have this feature, let me know. I'll see if it's possible. We could try to share this program. I know Adobe's getting pretty strict because they are losing money, and sometimes this works great, sometimes this does not. So you can see by making my brush smaller, using a much smaller brush, you can take out things you don't want. If you only cover the things you want to remove, I'm probably just not going to use this image, or I'm going to do some work on it, re-upload it, and I will work on only showing better images to you or providing them in folders, because one thing I would like to have you do today when you start work is I will create a folder for the new page that you created. The page is beautiful. You did a great job making those AI images. They're all very acceptable. But I went and got actual images. The only image I had or the only problem I had with the tattoo page was I will work on this. And if you want me to make a video of how I correct this with GPT, I could show you a new GPT, but this was pretty nice. This one, they're all the same. So I will work on repairing that. If you want to see a video of how I do that, I could show you in the new GPT-4 how you can change things very easily. I'm just going to go through this process real quick just to show you everything I do in case you are doing this. Since images are such a big part of an aesthetics website, I'm going to go ahead and make that more square so it will fit our needs better. I'm going to then add the metadata that I talked about, file info. A lot of this can be done with GPT, or I can find a way to share all these files with you. But if you wanted to, you can always just make a screen grab of that, and then you can ask GPT to fill it in. You can use this MedSpa one. You can use the image GPT. You can use any of the ones that I've created. Each one has more of a purpose, but I've been working on trying to make these work for each different company. The one that I find works the best for Express Med Spa is this one. And I would just paste it in and tell it to, I can share this prompt with you, but I just pasted that screen. I used this and just to explain some things. I said use LSI keywords, which is latent semantic indexing. That's all the related terms in a search that are most commonly found with a search term. The reason I use this GPT is I have uploaded all of the Google Search Console data, all of the image data from SEMrush. So in this, it has all of the terms that we are ranking for. It has all of the information for every keyword that we're already, all of these, all the organic keywords, all of this is listed inside that GPT. Also, all of the information from this. So all of the search results, every single query, which there are thousands, all of these words are listed in that custom GPT. That is also true for Katara and the Floor for You. I work on this all the time, and the goal is that it includes words like this. That way, if those words are inside a picture and you put them in image schema, when someone searches for exactly that, if you've used this as your seed term, if you've used that query, or for this specifically, since these are Kybella injections, I would choose one of these that there's a lot of volume for. And I would tell that GPT to create all that information based on this search term. And now when it creates all that, and this also goes for when you create image schema. So now all of this information will fill in all of this information. So document title, author, author title, description. So you'll have all the information you need for all of those things. And then if you want image object data, if you want to go on this page and include image object data, this would match exactly. It would name, you would have to name the image, and you would have to check this because sometimes this won't be accurate. But as long as you match these, this will all register that image. The only problem is you do have to check when this right here is saying which web page that you're linking this to. But one thing you definitely want to always check is this ID and the content URL, because this might not always be true. See, that's not a page. So you'd have to go to the image library and make sure that you matched it to this. And if you check all of these things and we were to do this, I understand this is a lot of work, but this should mean you have work for the rest of the year. We will just have to keep track of these things and try to work one task at a time or one page at a time. I really appreciate all the effort that you have put into the website. This is a very important document. I love all the work you do here. Um, this here, this tells us what we have to work on, what we still need to, create. This is all something that's important. Something too, I would probably realize is that you recently made the new because I don't think it'll be on here anywhere. Oh, you did add it. You are doing a great job. You're doing an amazing job. I love all the stuff you do. It's always so exciting to come here and find this. This is awesome. I'm so excited to see this, man. Thank you very much.